Hello students, welcome to BYJU'S. Welcome to a session on Explained. Very recently, Government of India has introduced certain changes to its FDI policy, and various experts have stated that this particular change in the FDI policy is targeted at inflow or controlling the inflow of Chinese investments into India. In this particular video, we'll discuss what is this particular concept of FDI and why Government of India chose to amend or change its FDI policy in the present time. So let's start with the concept of FDI. FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment. These are the inflows of capital which are coming from foreign countries into, let's say, India, and these investments are usually focused on, let's say, development of infrastructure. I'm just trying to tell you a layman definition. Layman definition of FDI means foreign companies coming into India investing in infrastructure. They could invest in services sector. Is it allowed? Yes. They can invest in development of infrastructure. Yes. They can set up their own companies in India under certain conditions. Definitely yes. So in simple terms, FDI means foreign companies coming into India investing in infrastructure. But what is a technical definition of an FDI? The Government of India says whenever a foreign company invests more than 10% or holds more than 10% stake in any of the company in India, then basically this is referred to as FDI. To be more precise, it is either 10% or more than 10% stake. Now, whenever FDI comes into India, there are two different routes. That is two different ways through which FDI will flow into India. That is basically these routes are approval route and the automatic route. These are there in the discussion now. Before understanding what is approval and automatic, let me give a very simple analogy here. Imagine there are three sectors in India, X, Y, Z. Again, there are multiple sectors. Just for sake of understanding, imagine there are three sectors, X, Y, Z. Of the three sectors, Z is very strategic in nature, very important for Government of India. And whenever such a strategic sector is present, obviously don't you think Government of India would want to control what kind of private sector participation, if at all, will be allowed in this particular sector? Definitely yes. And remaining two sectors are capital starved, or there is a huge requirement of a capital in these particular sectors. So what usually government does in these particular situations is this. It will allow inflow of a capital in, let's say, X sector through approval route and Y sector through the automatic route. What is the meaning of this? It simply means in case of any foreign company, let's say company A, if it wishes to invest in company Y, that is sector Y, which is under the automatic route, it simply means to bring in the investment and invest in this particular sector. I'll repeat the statement. There is a foreign company A which wants to invest in Y sector, which has been kept under the automatic route by government. Automatic route basically means it will allow easy entry of the foreign investment into this particular sector. All these particular companies need to do, that is the foreign company needs to do, is approach RBI 1 month before bringing the money and please notify the RBI. That is basically give notice to RBI saying that we are going to bring in this much amount of investment to invest in, let's say, sector Y, where Government of India has said automatic route is allowed. So requirement or regulations is very less. It will basically promote easy inflow of the foreign investment into these particular sectors. On the other hand, I said X sector has been kept under the approval route. In case of the approval route, what happens? Under the approval route, let's say there is another company B, foreign company B, which wishes to invest in this particular sector X, which is under the approval route. It basically means before bringing this particular investment into India, it has to get certain clearances. From whom? It has to get the clearances from the government. So the regulatory guidelines will be implemented. The process how the foreign investment will be brought into India will be given. The time which will be required to bring the investment will be higher. The compliances, let's say paperwork that they will have to follow, will be much higher. So this is the basic difference between the approval route and automatic route. I'll just put it in a nutshell now. In case of the automatic route, the foreign investment can easily flow into these particular sectors. The regulatory guidelines will be very relaxed. All they need to do is go to RBI, submit a proposal and wait for 1 month, then bring in the investment, invest in this particular sector. Whereas in case of approval route, the foreign investor will have to get the clearances from Government of India. So these are certain important points related to what is FDI and the roots of FDI. Now, why very recently Government of India has changed its FDI policy? What led to this particular change? Please understand, this particular situation, that is the situation which is outcome of the disruption which has been caused by the pandemic, that is COVID-19, is a very difficult situation for the corporate sector, especially let's say manufacturing companies or even the service sector companies. The whole economic activity has got disrupted because of this particular lockdown. Now at this particular point of time, let's assume there is one company X which is involved, let's say again just hypothetical example, in manufacturing. Obviously it was involved in manufacturing, means what? Because of the lockdown imposed by the government, this particular company X would have been affected. One, the supply of raw material gets affected, supply of labor gets affected, supply of capital gets affected. This is on one side. If you look at the supply side, these are the problems. And on the other side, the supply of the goods to the market will get affected. As it is, there is very less demand in the market. Exports have come down. Domestic demand or consumption demand in the market has come down. So this will affect the revenues. So look at this. This particular company X is getting affected on both sides. Its supply factors are affecting it. The demand factors in the market are also affecting it. So in this particular situation, don't you think the balance sheet of this particular company will be very, very weak? The valuation or the value of this particular company will be very, very less. The danger in this particular situation is that Chinese investors will simply bring in their investment and purchase these particular companies at a very, very less cost. Why they will purchase it? For a simple reason, the valuation of the companies are very, very low. The owners of the company are unable to repay the loans to the bank. They are unable to pay wages to whatever employees they have. They are unable to sell these particular goods or services in the market. So they want to find a way out of this particular mess. And in this particular situation, the danger is that Chinese investors will swoop in and buy out these particular companies at a very high discount or at a very deep discounts. This has been seen to happen in case of countries such as Italy, Spain. That is a precise reason. Please remember this. India is not just an outlier with respect to changing its FDI policy. Same kind of changes in the policies have been done by USA, have been done by European Union, Spain, so on and so forth. Why they have done it? In order to protect their domestic companies. So the argument put forward by Government of India to change its FDI policy is that they want to protect the domestic companies in order to ensure that the Chinese investors will not come into India and start buying out these particular domestic companies at cheaper or discounted rates. Now you will ask me a simple question. If they buy out the companies, what is the problem? Please understand. Initially I said some of the sectors are very, very important for the government. They want to ensure that these kind of sectors, the foreign investments will be regulated. They do not want the interference of the foreign investors into these particular sectors. Let me give a very simple example. This particular problem of Chinese investors coming into India and investing in Indian companies was raised because of one financial institution in India that reported that the Chinese investment or the stake of Chinese in this particular company has increased. As a result of this particular announcement of this particular financial institution, Government of India took steps. SEBI took certain steps to look at the Chinese investments flowing into India. So understand this. The government on one side is worried that its domestic companies might be purchased by the Chinese investors at a very cheap rate. And Chinese start owning these particular companies means what? Foreign stakeholding in these particular sectors will increase. And at one point of a time, don't you think this will be a danger to, let's say, security of India? This will be a danger to overall economic activity in India. As a result of this particular concern, Government of India has changed this particular FDI policy. But more importantly, please remember what is the new FDI policy. It says that the foreign investments or FDI that is flowing into India from all of its neighboring countries. Remember the statement here? FDI flowing into India from all of its neighboring countries will have to go through the approval route. That is, they will have to get the permission from, let's say, Government of India. Now, what is the impact? What is the likely outcome of this particular policy? First and foremost, we are trying to protect our domestic companies. Second, very important, large number of startups are dependent on Chinese investments or have been getting financial assistance or financial investments from foreign investors. And one very important source of this particular foreign investment has been FDI flowing into India in these particular startups. And this particular FDI coming from Chinese investors. Now, various experts have stated that with Government of India clamping down or imposing the restrictions on these Chinese investment, the unicorns or startups, their financial position will get affected or their investments will get affected. Many of these particular startups, which are referred as unicorns, they get their investments or they have got their investments mainly from Chinese investors only. So with these kind of restrictions imposed on inflow of investments, now what will happen? These startups will be forced to find for more investments from other investors in the market. That will be one. Second, whatever proposals are there in the discussion, they will get affected. Third, there will be time delay with respect to attracting or getting investments from China, which will have an impact on the business performance of these particular startups. Apart from this, please understand, China has stated that this kind of a restriction imposed by the government or this kind of a change in the policy imposed by the government goes against the provisions of GATT. Under GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, there is one principle called as a principle of non-discrimination. Now, as per this particular principle of non-discrimination, an importing country shall not discriminate between like products imported from different trading partners. I'll repeat the statement. As per the principle of non-discrimination under GATT, a member country which has imported these particular goods shall not discriminate between these particular goods or like goods which are imported from different member countries of WTO. So, Chinese government has raised this particular issue and has stated that this policy of Government of India is against this particular principle of non-discrimination under GATT. So, these are some of the very important points related to the new FDI policy announced by Government of India. Thank you. Have a good day.